Welcome. I want to start this video off with a story. There was an old man, a boy, and a donkey, and they were all headed to the market. The old man and the boy were just walking alongside of the donkey, and they came upon a countryman, and the countryman looked at the old man and said, "You fool, what is a donkey for but to ride?" So the old man looked at the boy and thought, okay. So he put the boy on top of the donkey and they started on towards the market. Well, they passed by a group of men, and the men looked at him and said, what is wrong with you? Why are you allowing that lazy boy to be riding the donkey? So the man thought, okay, he ordered the boy off the donkey and he got on the donkey and they kept going. They went for a while and they came across two old women. And the one woman looked at the other woman and they were pointing at the guy on the donkey and they said, well, why are you on the donkey? You're neglecting that boy. And the old man thought, well, now what do I do? So he decided, well, maybe they both can ride the donkey. So they both got on the donkey and was riding it on down the path. They almost get to the market. As they're getting just into the crest of town, there's townspeople who are looking at them and laughing, and they're thinking, well, what's the problem? And they said, well, you're overloading the donkey. You two are too heavy to be riding that donkey. Shame on you. And so the old man stopped and he and the boy got off and they thought, well, now what do we do? Well, they got this idea that maybe they would just take a rope, tie it around the donkey's feet, and tie the donkey upside down on the pole. And they would carry both ends of the pole on their shoulders and they could carry the donkey into town. I mean, after all, the donkey was exhausted from carrying them all this time. So they thought, yep, this sounds like an idea. So they decided to do it. They tied the donkey's feet, turned him upside down, tied him to the pole. The boy took one end, the old man took the other, and they hoisted it up on their shoulder and they carried the donkey into town. Well, the townspeople were just laughing at them because they're thinking, what are you doing? And as the man and the boy and the donkey had just got to the market bridge, there's a bridge before the market, they had just gotten almost on the bridge and the donkey kicked its foot out. And when he did, he kicked the boy, and the pole slipped off of the boy's shoulder. The donkey fell off over the bridge and into the water. And because his legs were tied together, he drowned. Now, the man and the boy felt awful. And they lost something that was important to them. Think about what you're losing when you are pleasing other people, because there's a price to pay. When you are trying to micromanage and you're trying to do things for people and you can't say no, there's a price to pay. Somebody is paying for you to keep things at a certain level. And remember what I said in video 1 and 2 about how peacekeepers don't want to rock the boat? There's a price to pay. And just like this story, you're going to lose something. And you have to ask yourself, are you willing to lose some of the most important things to you? If your answer is no, then keep watching this video because we're going to talk about some other things. In part 1, we talked about some things that you could do. So if you missed it, go back to it. And in this video, we're going to continue on in some steps that you can take to stop the people-pleasing cycle. As always, before we get started, I have a trivia question for you to guess what you think the answer is and post it in the comments so that at the end of this video, I'm going to give you the answer and you can compare and see how you did. Here we go. Trivia question for this video is 100 Americans were asked, what would you rather have or do? Achieve great things or be happy? What percent said that they would rather be happy than to have or do great things? 100 Americans were asked, what would you rather have or do? Achieve great things or be happy? What percent said that they would rather be happy than to have or do great things? Put your comments below. Hi, I'm Mccloskey, Personal Development and Wellness Specialist. If you're new, or even if you've been here before and you haven't done it yet, make sure you click on the subscribe button and ring the bell so that you can be notified every time a new video is posted. Life can be so defeating, especially when you get stuck in the people-pleasing mode. Just like the boy and the man, how defeating it was for them, and look what they lost. Remember what I said in part 1 of Breaking Free and Feeling Good? No more putting everyone else before you. No more trying to please everyone. You have to make the choice. No more letting others walk all over you. No more doing things you really don't want to do because you feel like you can't say no. Take the choice, make the choice to stop and start using the tools that are provided in this series. In the first part of this series, I said that you have to consider what your motives are. When you're about to do something, think about why are you doing it? Who are you putting first? And sometimes you do have to put other people first, but think about what your priorities are and why you're doing something for someone. So one of the steps or tools that you can use is you have to consider their motives. So I talked about considering your motives. Consider their motives. Why are they asking you to do something? Why are they asking you to do it for them? Are they lazy? Are they just, do they want you to do something that they can do themselves, but they're just too lazy to do it? Are they feeling like, well, you know, she always does it every time I ask her, so I'll just ask her again? Think about what their motives may be, because if they're just asking you to do something that they really can do themselves, then remember I said in part 1 that sometimes you can get in people's way, that sometimes they need to learn a lesson, and if you do it for them, they may not learn the lesson that they're supposed to. So think about what is their motive and how are you keeping them from doing it themselves? Why aren't they doing it themselves? Maybe you need to look at that and ask yourself, well, wait a minute, why aren't they doing this? Or why are they asking me? One of the things could be is that someone is asking all these people, they're a taker, but they're never a giver. Do you know people like that? And boy, they get to a point where they burn all their bridges and nobody wants to do anything for them because they're always asking but never giving. So just think about what someone's motive is. The second thing you can do is learn to say no. So in the video before this, I talked about pausing, not saying things, not giving an answer right away. Tell someone that you need to think about it. But sometimes you just have to say no. It is okay to say no. And that is something that you have to tell yourself. it is okay to say no, because if you're a people pleaser, a lot of times the message or the belief that you have in yourself is it's wrong to say no. It is not wrong to say no. Here's what normally happens when you're trying to become healthy. We will go from one extreme to the other. So maybe we're saying yes all the time and we're recognizing that we're a people pleaser and we're trying to do something about it. And the next thing we know, we're way over here and we're saying no all the time. So here's yes all the time, here's no all the time. Neither one of them are healthy. So what you have to look at is what things do you need to say no to? But like I said before, if you take time, if you tell them, hey, I need to think about it, you go home, you go through your notebook, you write out why you might want to do this or why you might not want to do this, then you can look at, do I need to say no? And you may have to put post-it notes up to tell yourself it is okay to say no. Which leads me into number 3. Number 3 is have prepared responses. So if you're going to say no, you might want to have responses already written out, things that you can say that you feel comfortable to say to somebody else, because a lot of times the reason we say something is because we don't know what to say. There's a lot of fear, but there's also just not knowing what to say, or you get caught off guard. So if you rehearse, write them down again in a notebook, write them on a post-it note or on index cards, and have them where you can see them, where you can practice saying them every day. And you might have 2 or 3, and one might be for different situations. So the rule of thumb is tell them you need to take some time. Then come back to your notebook and look at the different responses that you have. And after you figured out, yes, I should do this, or no, I shouldn't do this, look at the responses that you can go back to them. And remember what I said in video 1. If you decide to say yes, make sure you get all the information, get the facts, find out all the details before you actually say yes. Number 4, set and enforce boundaries. Oh, there's that word. Boundaries are hard because you can't just, notice I said set and enforce. You cannot just set boundaries and not enforce them. You have to be ready to enforce any boundary that you set. And boundaries is another video that I'm going to be doing in the future. So if you're seeing this video, you might want to go see if I've already done it. But boundaries is something that we all need. It is something that separates us from other people. See, with being a people pleaser, we get too enmeshed in other people's stuff, in their space or in what they're doing, and we can't separate them from us. Where if you have a boundary or a few boundaries in place, it begins to separate you from them. And actually, it's really good to have boundaries because the other person then can see what your boundary is. And you know, people like to cross boundaries, but that's why you have to enforce them, which means that you have to have a consequence put in place so that if someone decides that they're going to cross your boundary, then you have that consequence in place, and this is what's going to happen. Please understand, a boundary is not punishment. And I'll talk about that more in my boundary series that I'm going to do. But a boundary is not punishment. But here's one of the things that you need to remember is that you need to have boundaries on yourself before you have boundaries on anyone else. If you have boundaries on yourself and you have some guidelines, then guess what you're not going to do? You're not going to say yes all the time. You're not going to allow people to walk all over you. You are not going to micromanage because you're going to have those boundaries in place. And then you're going to have boundaries for your loved ones and the people around you. So again, boundaries is very important to have if you find yourself in that people pleasing cycle. And boundaries isn't easy because we're not taught boundaries. Boundaries have been in place forever and ever, but we're not really taught them. So we're not sure how to do that. So make sure that you look for the video on how to set boundaries. Number 5, refrain from making excuses. You do not have to make an excuse why you can't do something. You don't. You do not owe anybody an explanation. If you hear someone who goes, when they're getting ready to say no, or I'm so sorry I can't because I have to go home and I have to wash my hair and then my kids need a bath and then tomorrow we're supposed to go on this picnic and my mother-in-law she just always is calling me and I just can't seem to ever get her off the phone and then I have to go to this thing that I really don't want to go to, but I have to. You're making excuses. You don't have to do that. Just say no, or just say, I might be able to do that later, but right now I can't. Or you do not have to fill up the space. And the reason we do that is because we are so afraid of what their reaction is going to be that we just try to make it sound really good why we're saying no. No making excuses. Number 6, be careful of being too rigid. So, like I said, we can go from one side of the spectrum to the other. And we're really, really, really nice. And then we can be really, really, really rigid. And what happens? Okay, so understand what happens here. When you start to set boundaries in place, or you are trying to stop a habit that you've been doing, in order to be able to do it, sometimes we make ourselves mad inside. Like, because that's the force that's going to make us do what we're supposed to do. Okay. And so what you need to be careful of is that you're not rigid with your answers, and you're not even allowing yourself to be mad at someone for asking you to do something because you are trying to get enough oomph to say no to them. Be very careful of that. Do not be too rigid. Number 7, recognize that you do not have to agree with others' opinions. You are allowed to have your own opinion. You do not have to think the same way as somebody else, and you do not have to like what other people like, and you do not have to have the same opinions about things. You are allowed to have your own opinion. Own it. Own your own opinion. I'm not saying force it on everybody else, but don't allow other people's opinions to be forced on you. Number 8, work on your self-worth. Do things that will create an environment where you can see yourself for who you really are and not for what other people, places, and things have said you are. Now that's really hard, and it's a process, and it takes time. This is another video series that I'm going to be doing. So if you see this video, you may want to go look and see if I've done the one on self-worth, improving your self-worth, because this is an area that once you really see yourself for who you are and not for who you think you are, you begin to feel much healthier. You feel good about yourself. You feel good about life. You can have boundaries and feel good about that. And you get a sense of joy that you probably don't have whenever you're people pleasing. So do things that will help you work on your own self-worth. And number 9, discover your purpose. When you know your purpose, you won't do things when you know they don't line up with what your purpose is. Remember, You were not created to please everyone. It is not okay that others take advantage of you. Once again, it is up to you to take these tools and use them. It will not feel comfortable at first. It won't. In the beginning, it won't feel comfortable. Matter of fact, it will feel very uncomfortable until you use them. And once you use them enough, then it will feel comfortable. Not it actually, when you use them, you'll start to become more comfortable with them, and then you'll get to a point where it will feel uncomfortable not to use them. Here's the thing. Not only are you teaching people how to treat you, you're teaching other people what healthy actions are. You see, whether you like it or not, other people are watching you. Some small ones, some old ones. They are watching and learning from you. What do you want them to learn? It's time for the answer to the trivia question. 100 Americans were asked, what would you rather have or achieve? Great things or be happy? What percentage said they would rather be happy than to achieve great things? 81% said to be happy. How did you do? What one would you rather have? Let me know in the comments. If you are tired of running yourself to exhaustion and want tools to help you break free from people pleasing, be sure to click over here or on the link below to get your Time for You 5 Simple Habits to Eliminate People Pleasing. If you missed part 1 of Breaking Free and Feel Good, click here to get access. Like this video if it was helpful for you. Be sure to pass this forward because I guarantee there's someone you know who would benefit from it. If you missed the other videos in the People Pleasing series, click here. Be sure to join the Thrive While Alive membership group for helpful tools, encouragement, and support. Keep moving forward to thrive while alive. I'll see you in the next video.